Brothers and sisters, thank you. We will start our first press conference for this summit and the celebration of the Golden Jubilee. Let me welcome our member of panels, Chairperson Dlamini Zuma, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Deputy Chairperson Erastus Mwansha, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and Her Excellency Ambassador Konjit as representative of the host country and Chairperson of PRC. I thank them for coming to give you all the information on this special summit. Our program will be, I will give the floor to His Excellency Deputy Chairperson. His Excellency will elaborate on overview given by on the event and the steps the AUC have taken to ensure improved media access and coverage. After that, I will give the floor to Ambassador Konjit, representative of the host country and chairperson of the African Union Permanent Representative Committee. She will speak on the PRC and anticipated outcomes of the summit. So, Excellency, I will give you floor. After that, we will open the floor for media to ask questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Abiba, and good afternoon, members of the Fourth Estate. I'm just giving you a brief on behalf of my principals, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, and also the chairperson of the Committee of Permanent Representatives, but I'm sure they are also ready to answer any queries you may ask, and we'll also be able to give clarifications on any matters that you may want us to clarify. First of all, I'd like to thank you on behalf of Africa for your partnership and for the interest many of you have taken on this momentous occasion that we are celebrating 50 years of our anniversary. The event kicked off today officially and will continue in two phases as we have indicated in the past. This segment will continue up to 27th of this month, the one which kicked off today, with the opening of the meeting of permanent representatives and a number of member states that are already here. The culmination of which will be on the 25th, but of course this event will finish officially on the 27th. But it also kicks off a year-long celebrations that will continue for the rest of the year. For this part, a number of activities that have been prepared, and they have been prepared having the following principles in mind. First, we really are out to make sure that the 50th anniversary is people-centered, that it will give Africa and all the million Africans an opportunity to reflect on the road we have traveled together in the last 50 years, to take stock of where we are, and to map for the future. The second part of it, we are saying it should be all-embracing, all Africans in their formations, meaning we would like the youth and the children to participate in this event. We like our gender, particularly women, to also participate. The business community, the people in general, including what we call the People's Parliament, but also the intelligentsia and all aspects of our society. And for this reason, a number of events have already been prepared. To start with, we have had a very interactive meeting of women summit, which took place last week, but which is part of the process. we'll be having in the course of this very week a forum for the youth. And that forum is unique in many ways. It will afford the youth to interact with some of the leaders who were there in 1963 when OAU was launched. They will also have an opportunity to interact with the leaders that are currently serving, and the youth will also in a way represent the leadership of the future. There will be a meeting of the business community also during this week, to be precise on Friday, and these will all feed into the summit of heads of state and government that will take place here on Saturday the 25th. That event has two parts. The first part will be a debate or a general discussion on the theme of the summit. The theme of the summit is on Pan-Africanism and Renaissance. That will take place in the morning of Saturday 25th. Then in the afternoon, our leaders, together with the invited guests who have come from all over the world, will go to the Millennium Hall, where they will then celebrate the event. That will include some choreographed part which will reflect Africa in all its perspective, historical, current, and the future. There will be also goodwill messages by leaders coming from the rest of the world to come and join us. During these celebrations, we hope and trust that we'll continue to enjoy your partnership. In fact, we have made elaborate arrangements for your participation because we believe in the work that you are doing. We know you are partners, and we want you to continue to work with us in this very summit. We have endeavored to make sure that we will disseminate the signal to the rest of the world during the event in the morning and even in the afternoon. In other words, we are doing everything possible to make sure that citizens in the continent will be able to receive this signal all over Africa. And this is something I would hope that you can disseminate to your TV channels at home, to do everything possible to link up to Addis Ababa so that they can get signals for the citizens wherever they are, even in remote areas, so that they can feel they are a part of Addis Ababa. We have also arranged a number of activities that will take place during that time, including sports. Now, the second aspect of this celebration is that it should be memorable. Memorable in the sense that we want to undertake some activities that will be there and stand the test of time. Some of them will address issues to do with environment. Some of it will also address issues of how we do business, including us looking at Agenda 2063, which we believe will be one of the takeaways from this summit, that we can then agree on how we want to prepare the trajectory for our cooperation in the next 50 years. And that is what we see as a significant takeaway from this summit. Finally, we have also made arrangements for this event to bring your inputs. And during the year long, we'll be organizing thematic discussions. And this is where we trust that you can also chip in, that will inform the debate of 2063, which will be adopting that long-term strategy next year. And the number of thematic debates and discussions will involve some activities that should improve quality of life for citizens of the continent, but also enrich our future in terms of perspective. So, members of the media, this is the frame, and now we open the floor through our coordinator after the addition by the chair of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Ambassador Kanjit, please, you have the floor.
What is there to add? I think our deputy has said it all. But let me very briefly say that, as he mentioned, the PRC has started its official meeting this morning. And as he said, it will continue up to the 27th, that is with the Executive Council and the 21st session of the Assembly. PRC will discuss on some points that are left on its agenda. It's been meeting during the last 6 months, more or less regularly, preparing for the session, and we are left with very few items, that is the budget for 2014 and the strategic plan for the Union 2014-2017. And as was said, all the policy organs of the Union will be discussing the theme, Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance. There will be a grand debate on the theme during the special summit on the 25th of May. And the outcome of this grand debate will form the proclamation, which will be adopted on the 26th, I think, according to the program. So this is the program. And then on the 26th of May, the 21st session of the Assembly will start, 26th and 27th May. And in that session, the Assembly will take up its regular agenda items. I think if I say that, it would be enough. Thank you very much. Any questions, we will answer.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Merci. We will now open the floor to your questions. Please introduce yourself and your media. We will open the opportunity for 4 questions. Please, I will start this side.
Thank you very much, Madam Abiba. My name is Groom, CCTV. I just have 2 questions for Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson. First question, what will be the most significant outcome that the AU Commission expecting after celebrating this 50th anniversary all year long? This significant point, I believe, is there behind all the celebrations. Question number 2, as Deputy Chairperson, Your Excellency was explaining about Agenda 2063, which is I think the stage of planning. How is it inclusive, participatory, and indeed a plan that is going to guarantee the Africa that is different from which used to be in the last 50 years? Thank you very much.
Elisa, please.
Elissa Jobson with the Africa Report. Representatives from civil society, external parties like the UN and Foreign Diplomatic Corps are under the impression that they are not going to be allowed into the AU Conference Centre during the meetings of the Executive Council and the Assembly. Some of them claim to have been informed directly, either by the chairperson or by other senior members of her team. Please can you state categorically whether NGOs, partners and non-African delegates will be allowed access to the conference centre during the Executive Council meetings and the meetings of the Assembly? And if not, why not? And if so, why has there been this confusion? Thank you.
Merci. Yes, please. Okay, we will respond to you and come back. Please, madam.
I haven't said anything, but the questions are coming to me. Isn't that strange? But let me start with your question about what will be the significance of this year-long celebration. I think the most important is that the AU has decided to involve its citizens also in this celebration. And the celebration is both celebratory activities, but also there's a lot of discussions that are taking place, that will continue to take place. And these discussions are really about citizens reflecting on where we've come from and where we're going. And the culmination of those discussions are going to be the Agenda 2063. And we think for us that will be the most significant, because it will then give us a very clear roadmap of where we should be going, not only as the Commission, but all the institutions, but also generally Africans here and in the diaspora. So that's, besides the celebration, besides honoring our heroes and heroines, but it would be about that agenda that will come from all of us. And I must say that this is also about energizing, about galvanizing people of the continent. As we speak to you, the Deputy Chair has mentioned some of the activities. Even as we speak, there is a meeting just next door of civil society discussing the same questions, the theme and Agenda 2063. On Friday and Saturday, the intellectuals were meeting, discussing the same thing. There'll be business people coming, everyone, but not only here, elsewhere, people are energized and are discussing this. And so for us, that would be the most significant of this celebration, the galvanization, the energizing, and the roadmap that will come out of there. Secondly, I think the other question will be answered by the chair of the PRC, and we can also add when she said something. But maybe just as a general rule, this celebration is very open. As I said, the celebration started on the 17th with some intellectuals meeting. Every day there is activity. And everyone is allowed to celebrate. And on the 25th, the whole day is an open session. The discussions in the morning and the afternoon at the Millennium Hall. It's all open. On the 26th, the leaders will be going into their closed session. On the 27th, again, when the proclamation is proclaimed and everything, that will be an open session. The executive are going to be just dealing with their issues, their normal business. So it will be, they'll be in closed session with their normal business. But for the rest, it's very open. And I think this has not come from the Commission. This has come from the member states themselves. That's why I said maybe the chair of the PRC will also contribute to this. We are implementing what we've been asked, which is very reasonable in our view. Because I think let's just think for a moment. All organizations have their meetings, their summits. The EU has its summit, but it's closed. We all read about it in the media. We don't go there. And we don't complain. Nobody complains. Not even their citizens. When it's closed, it's closed. They are there. They discuss what they want to discuss in closed session. Every organization, I've been to ASEAN because we were invited as special guests at South Africa at some stage. I didn't see everybody flooding the ASEAN summit. I've been to G8 summit. There's one coming now. That question will not arise. It will be a closed session when they want it to be a closed session. We don't quite understand why closed sessions that are decided by the AU become an issue. that really, for me, I don't understand. As we say, the 25th is open the whole day. Now we're not allowed to have closed sessions, and when there are closed sessions, we have to answer questions. I just find it very strange. And I think if there is confusion, there is no confusion. Closed sessions are closed sessions. We decide which sessions are closed, depending on the agenda that's going to be discussed. We decide which sessions are open. And if you are not going to be participating in the discussions, why do you want to be here? If you are not going to be in any session, why do you want to be present? This is what we don't understand. So I don't understand really why this has become an issue. Our member states decided, our ministers decided that when they have a closed session, they want to have a closed session and discuss and finish and not be pulled around everywhere. So, and really, it shouldn't be an issue. It's also an attitude towards us as Africans, that when we decide, the whole world we must answer to the whole world why this is a closed session. Why? Why should this be a question that we now have to account to the world? Why this is a closed session? Why this is... Nobody accounts to us about their summits. We are only trying to do our work as efficiently as we can. We have open sessions where everybody is invited. And we have closed sessions where we are just discussing on our own. And that's not unusual. All organizations do it. If we haven't done it before, we've decided to learn from the best and do what the others are doing. Thank you.
Ambassador Kanji, do you want to add something, please?
Well, what I would like to say is that the decision was made by the extraordinary session of the Council of Ministers. And I don't think they would be very happy to explain why they made that decision. At least I'm not mandated to explain. But they have made this decision to close their session. I don't know what we're talking about in the first place. Are we talking about member states who are not members of the African Union Organization, or the press? Which one are we addressing?
I'm asking whether NGOs, civil society organisations, representatives from the UN, apart from the UNECA, representatives from the EU, and representatives from non-African diplomatic missions will be allowed in the building, not into the conference hall during closed sessions, which has never been the case, but generally during the closed sessions, these observers and partners have been allowed into the conference centre where they can meet on the side with African member states. And at the moment, these constituents are under the impression that they won't be allowed into the conference centre. It's not about attending the closed sessions of the African Union Summit, which have always been closed and have never been open to these observers.
Yes, okay, as long as it is, as we are not referring to the press. But the Council, in its wisdom, decided that all sessions, except the open sessions, the public sessions, all sessions will be closed. Closed to anyone outside the membership of this organization. That is the decision that they made, and I do hope that will be respected. That's all I can say on that.
Can you explain for us, if the ministers are meeting in closed session, where do they then find the time to have these meetings that you are talking about?
I'm not saying that I understand the procedure of this, but in the past, I think it's been customary for people to leave the room, and I'm not questioning whether this is correct. All I'm reporting is that member states, the NGOs, civil society organisations and partners are surprised that they are not going to be allowed into the African Union Conference Centre, when at all previous meetings of the African Union they've been allowed into the conference. As a journalist, I'm not taking sides. I just wanted to get an answer to that question.
Yes, Nama, I'm asking a question since you have raised it. You say they want to have meetings on the side whilst the meeting is going on. So who's going to be in the meeting when the side meetings are taking place?
As I said, I'm a journalist, and I'm not sure it's for me to answer that.
You shouldn't ask it.
Thank you.
But no, don't look at others. All we're saying is that there are sessions that are closed, and the ministers have asked that those sections be closed. And if they wanted to continue as usual, they would not have asked us to close the sessions. And that's it.
Okay.
We're implementing what our member states have asked us to do. And this is their meeting. We are just organizing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Yeah, you have the floor.
Thank you. Kirubel from the Associated Press. In the past, when Africa's future was discussed, there has been always this talk of political integration, sometimes economic integration. Now, this summit is expected to start a process of planning the next 50-year agenda for the continent. And should Africans expect from this strategic document timetable, definite timetable, when probably they will have a common currency, when they will have a parliament? Such plannings, will there be such a planning and definite timetables in the agenda? Thank you.
Hi there, Jen.
The first one would be to get the framework, because the framework is coming from everybody. And then there would be planning precisely to do what we are saying, to say in 10 years, this is what we want to be. In 20 years, this is where we want to be. In 25 years, in 30 years, like that. But the first is just to consolidate what would have come from from everybody, because it's not just the AU, it's civil society, it's everyone. And then there will be definite, we'll have to work out definite time frames. It can't just be that in 2063 we want to be there. We want to also do the steps of how we get there, and there will be some broad timelines. So yes, in the end, the document will have to be like that.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you have a personal timetable? Do we think Africa will be ready for a common currency and sort of a common parliament?
But that's precisely what the consultation is about. And once we've consulted everyone, we will then put the things together. It's not for me or for us here as the Commission to make those decisions. But everyone must contribute, and together with member states, we must then decide on the timelines for those things. Because at the end of the day, it's the member states also that will have to be comfortable with those timelines, because the common currency will be used by them, and it will be their currency. So we can't sit here and decide that without them, that on that day there should be a common currency. But we hope that in all these discussions and the steps and the target times, eventually those timelines will be put.
Members of the media, I like to jump in here to say that there is a meeting going on of the PRC, and the chair is here. But we have organized briefings for you throughout the week, because some of the questions you are asking to me are systemic, which can be answered even in the course of the year. But I think it's important for us to also mention to you that because of the large number of media we are expecting, particularly on the 25th, we are going to come back to you and brief all of us in detail the arrangement we are putting together to enable you cover this summit as efficiently as possible, especially during the proceedings in the morning and in the afternoon. We are doing technically to see whether we can get you signal, get you seated in a room with computers so that you can transmit your story with minimum inconvenience. We want to appeal to you to cooperate with us, especially when leaders come here. When they are arriving, when they are leaving, we don't want you to start approaching them with microphone, all this, because it's delaying us, especially in areas like going to take a photo. We really want to do things in a very efficient and effective manner. But as I said, we'll appoint a day when we come and we spend time together with you so that what we do is clearly understood by you and that you know what is going to happen every moment so that it is good for you and for all of us. So if you could permit, please allow us as we plan events to come and brief you in the course of the week.
There are still a few more. We can just answer 2 or 3 more.
Thank you, Excellency.
Hi there, Jenny Vaughan with Agence France Presse.
Yes.
Sorry, Jenny Vaughan with Agence France Presse. My question is for Commissioner Zuma. I know that the alternative sources of funding are high on the agenda, at least the draft agenda for the discussions at the summit. What kind of concrete outcomes would you like to see regarding the discussions surrounding finances for the AU? And also, last time we met, we talked a little bit about the AU's disappointment that they were perhaps not consulted enough in regards to the UN mission in Mali. With a lot of high-ranking UN reps coming this week, what kinds of conversations would you like to see regarding how the AU and the UN interact in terms of those kinds of missions on the ground in Mali and elsewhere?
I think it would be fair for those high-ranking to hear from us before they see it in the media. We've had discussions on some of the issues, and we'll continue discussing with them. But I don't think by the time they come here, they should have read in the media what issues we want to raise with them. I think it's only fair to talk to them directly. And on the issues of funding, this is going to be a discussion. We're expecting that President Obasanjo will also make a report on the work that he was asked to do, and we'll see what comes out of it.
One more question this side, the final one. Yes, please.
David Wope from Zambia. Maybe looking back on the last 50 years, what would you say are some of the key successes and failures of the organization, and how do you wish to address the failures which you encountered in the last 50 years? Thank you.
Okay, the Deputy Chair will follow on this question, and I think even she was at the AU when it was launched as a young diplomat. So she's accompanied this AU from the launch up to now. So she will say a lot more on this matter. Maybe she should start, actually.
Thank you, Dr. Zuma. I don't think we can talk about failures. I don't think it's fair to say, OAU has failed. This is work in progress. As far as we are concerned, OAU has discharged its mandate. Its mandate, of course, among others, its primary mandate was to liberate Africa from the shackles of colonialism and apartheid. I think in that regard, it has done brilliantly. Africa now, after 50 years, is a free and independent continent. So when we talk about failures and successes, I don't know from what point of view are we putting these questions. I, for one, this is not the first time that I'm saying it, I have been saying it, that OAU has not failed. And one thing we must not forget is that organizations are what their members are making them. This must always be kept in mind. Now, the founding fathers wanted to liberate Africa. Africa is liberated. They wanted to emancipate Africa economically, developed Africa, free of poverty, united, etc. And that is work in progress, that we are doing. And we are hoping by 2063, Africa will be a prosperous, united, and free Africa, free from poverty, free from all the evils that are plaguing our continent. I think this is what I want to say. Thank you.
Just in addition to what Ambassador Conchita has said, looking at the mission of the OAU and now the African Union, one can also add 2-3 perspectives. Second one, of course, is nation building. At independence, many of our countries inherited the colonial structures which you needed then to reorganize and start nation building. And in the last 50 years, you can see Africa getting stronger, and as a nation, if you look at the organization of the state, this has been one of those remarkable achievements. As an organization of OAU and AU, one other key achievement has been to set standards and norms that we are now using at the continental level. Here one can say a lot. I'm sure you have followed, for example, that we are now talking of having norms such as a protocol on governance, on elections, and so forth. All those things which the continent has now upheld as continental norms and standards. The aspect of integration always attracts a lot of questions. But at independence, our leaders were very clear as to what they wanted to do. They had a bottom-up and a top-down approach. The bottom-up was to ask regional economic communities to embark on the project of regional integration. And that was done in 1963 by our leaders who met here, because that was one of the key decisions they took in 1963 summit as to how Africa would approach the issue of integration. Again, one doesn't have to say much about progress achieved by regional economic communities in terms of facilitating trade, facilitating movement of people, infrastructure development. A lot is being done at continental level. And we continue to build on this one. As Ambassador Conchita said, this is work in progress. Top down, there is a number of intercontinental programs we are implementing and which are also creating results at the local level, including, for instance, our continental program on infrastructure, on food security, on peace and security, and so forth, which one can talk about as achievements. Finally, in the international level, Africa, in 1963, we were all split and not, even some of us not independent. We hardly had a voice in the international arena. Africa now has a capacity to talk as one in the international arena, and one can give a lot of examples. This is again work in progress because we believe the international architecture, the global architecture, is not favorable to Africa. But Africa is pushing to make sure that the global governance and international economic relations also takes into account Africa's concerns. These are some of the things we can mention in the last 50 years.
Maybe just lastly, to reinforce what the two colleagues have said. Indeed, the OAU succeeded in freeing Africa and liberating Africa. And now, after that, if you recall, the OAU member states under the OAU then decided that the OAU was there on the main to decolonize, to liberate Africa. Now we needed to have an organization that will deal with the challenges of today. And that's when the AU was then established. The OAU became the AU, and we also, in addition to what they've said, there's NEPAD, because now the main thrust is towards development, it's towards modernizing the continent, it's towards making sure that our people are developed, they are skilled, they can drive the development and the economy. And if you look at the last 10 years, Africa has been growing economically. There's been quite a lot of development, even in terms of infrastructure. Not enough yet, but countries have been working hard on their infrastructure. Even when the crisis, financial and economic crisis came, Africa has not been hard hit like other regions. So all these are the successes of the past 50 years. The fact that 6 of the fastest developing economies are on the continent, even during this crisis time, means it's a success of the past 50 years. But of course, as the ambassador says, it's work in progress. There are lots more things that we need to do. There are more kids at school now than there were before the OAU was formed. There are less children dying at birth, and all the indicators are falling. They've not reached where they should be, but the trend is the right trend. So I think even when it comes to equality, gender equality, there's lots of progress that we've seen over the past 50 years. So the OAU really has succeeded. And the last 50 years have got lots of successes in terms of the organization and in terms of what our continent has been doing around the common programs that we've put together. Thanks.
Yeah, we get more questions. The last one, so I will please give you the floor to respect the gender balance.
Bonjour, Sofiane Benjeloun du Sénégal. In English? Okay. J'ai une question sémantique. On a entendu dans votre discours que vous avez parlé du fait de donner de l'énergie, donner de l'espoir, et que même dans vos anciens discours, que la priorité c'est maintenant le peuple, les gens. Donc est-ce qu'on peut dire que la rupture pour les 50 prochaines années, c'est de communiquer davantage? Et est-ce que le fait de communiquer davantage pour amener le plus de personnes vers vous est la spécificité de l'Union africaine en termes de positionnement?
Thank you. Yes, in our priorities, communication is one of the priorities. But obviously, we have to improve communication at all levels, communicating from the AU side, through you as journalists based in Addis, but we also have to find ways of communicating beyond Addis. We are looking at getting into the social media. We are looking into getting to radios, but working with our member states, obviously, so that we can utilize those mediums. And generally communicating a lot more through the media in Africa. And the team is doing its best, but we have also identified the capacity, just the number of warm bodies in our team that is doing communication is few. So we're looking at how to increase and improve the capacity, but also in terms of technology here at the AU. So that's work in progress. It's not something that you can do in one day. But yes, this is something that we are trying to do. Thank you.